Imagine a town, standing alone in the middle of a flat, endless landscape. It's surrounded by nothing but open land and a sky that feels wider than it should. The buildings are intact, the streets paved and clean. There are no signs of destruction or abandonment. Nothing appears broken, damaged, or left behind in a hurry, which makes the silence more unsettling than any ruin ever could. From above, the layout feels deliberate, controlled. Streets intersect at precise angles. Houses align with careful symmetry. The town gives the impression of having been designed with patience and long-term purpose. It doesn't look improvised or accidental. It looks planned, measured, and meant to last. And yet, as we slowly descend toward street level, the absence of life becomes impossible to ignore. At ground level, the stillness grows heavier. Doors remain closed, curtains don't move, and windows reflect the sky without revealing anything of what lies behind them. The town doesn't respond to observation, doesn't acknowledge our presence, and doesn't seem aware that it's being watched. It exists in a state where interaction is no longer expected. The silence here isn't empty. It carries weight, pressure, and a quiet sense of attention, as if the air itself is listening. There is no wind moving between the buildings, no insects, no distant engines reminding you that the world continues somewhere else. The quiet doesn't fluctuate or drift. It stays exactly the same, steady and unchanging. Near the center of the road, a streetlight stands upright, its metal surface worn but not rusted. Despite the daylight, it flickers softly, turning on and off at irregular intervals. The pauses between flashes feel deliberate, not random, not broken, as if the light is signaling rather than failing. It doesn't demand attention, but it refuses to be ignored. The houses lining the street share the same structure, the same muted colors, and the same distance between entrances. At first, the repetition feels practical, the result of efficient construction and careful planning. But as we move forward, the uniformity begins to feel excessive, almost obsessive, until individual details blur together and direction becomes harder to judge. One door stands slightly open, just enough to be noticed. It doesn't invite entry, but it doesn't prevent it either, existing in a careful balance between welcome and warning. Inside, the air feels cooler and heavier, carrying the faint scent of dust that has settled undisturbed for a very long time. Furniture sits neatly in place, aligned with quiet intention. Nothing is overturned, nothing appears broken, and nothing suggests panic or urgency. The space feels frozen in routine, as if the day simply stopped halfway through itself and never resumed. Across the floor, a narrow path cuts through the dust. Everywhere else, the dust rests evenly, untouched and undisturbed. But this path is worn smooth by repeated steps. It follows the same route each time, measured, consistent, familiar, suggesting habit, repetition, and persistence long after the town fell silent. Photographs hang on the walls, carefully framed and evenly spaced. Families stand together, children pose stiffly, and faces look calm but distant. None of the expressions show fear, yet none show joy either. They exist in a quiet emotional neutrality, suspended in moments that were never meant to last this long. In the kitchen, a chair is pulled slightly away from the table, positioned as if someone stood up with the intention of returning moments later. The table surface is clean and prepared, free of clutter or decay, as if it's still being maintained. The room doesn't feel abandoned. It feels paused. Moving deeper into the house, the hallway narrows just enough to feel uncomfortable. The walls seem closer, the ceiling slightly lower, creating a subtle compression that feels more psychological than physical. Each step forward feels measured, as if the space itself is paying attention. In the bedroom, the bed is neatly made, the fabric smooth and carefully arranged. The corners are sharp, the sheets untouched, yet the pillow carries a shallow impression that has not faded with time. It's not fresh, and it's not old. It feels permanent, like a memory that refuses to loosen its grip. Stepping back outside, the street appears unchanged, but the atmosphere has shifted. There is a quiet awareness now, a subtle sense that observation has been noticed. The stillness no longer feels neutral. It feels attentive. As we move forward, details begin to repeat. The same crack in the pavement appears again. The same chipped edge on a step returns. The same mark on a wall resurfaces, no matter how far the path continues. The repetition is too precise to be a coincidence. It becomes difficult to tell whether progress is being made or if movement is slowly looping back on itself. The town offers no signs, no directions, and no guidance. It allows confusion to grow naturally, letting familiarity replace certainty. There is no map, no indication of where one street ends and another begins. Everything feels familiar too quickly, as if memory is being supplied artificially. The absence of orientation feels intentional, like part of a design rather than an oversight. At the center of town stands a larger building, heavier and more imposing than the rest. Its presence feels significant without explanation, drawing attention through sheer certainty. The structure doesn't ask to be approached, it assumes it will be. Inside, rows of empty chairs face a narrow platform. The arrangement is orderly, deliberate, and stripped of decoration. There are no symbols, no banners, no signs explaining the space. It feels designed for watching, for waiting, for witnessing something that has not yet occurred. There's something unsettling about how the building holds sound, even in silence. The air inside feels denser, as if every thought lingers a fraction longer before fading. Standing there, it becomes difficult to tell whether the quiet is empty or simply restrained, waiting for the right moment to release everything it has been holding back. The chairs seem positioned with intention, not randomly placed, but carefully aligned, each one facing forward as if attendance was once expected, and still is. The space feels prepared for an audience that never arrived, or perhaps for one that has not yet returned. The absence here feels organized, structured, and patient, rather than accidental. Time inside the room feels stretched and compressed at the same time, bending gently around perception. Seconds feel longer, yet moments pass without notice. It creates the uneasy impression that something important has already happened here, and that whatever comes next is simply waiting for the correct witness to remain long enough to notice it. Behind the platform, the walls are covered in writing. The words are not painted or printed, they are carved directly into the surface. Letter by letter, line by line, each mark appears deliberate and careful, as if the act of carving mattered as much as the message itself. The same sentence repeats over and over again, covering the wall completely. They will come back. There is no date attached to the message, no name, and no explanation. The words don't sound hopeful, and they don't sound desperate. They sound certain, like a statement of fact rather than a promise. Standing in the center of the room, the realization forms quietly and without resistance. This town is not abandoned. It is paused, held in the exact moment before something returns, or perhaps before something happens again. Outside, the light feels heavier now, as if the sky has lowered slightly. Time behaves differently here, stretching moments and compressing others. Shadows extend in directions that don't match the sun, and reflections in windows arrive just a fraction too late. The streets no longer feel empty. They feel occupied in a way that cannot be seen. Presence exists without form, filling the space between buildings, resting just beyond perception, lingering like a thought that refuses to leave. Walking becomes slower without conscious effort. Each step feels guided more by instinct than intention, as if the town itself is setting the pace. It doesn't feel hostile or threatening. It feels expectant, as though presence confirms something it has been waiting to verify. At the edge of town, the road doesn't end abruptly. It fades gradually, the pavement thinning until it blends into the surrounding land. There is no sign marking the boundary, no warning that this is where the town stops. Continuation simply ceases to exist. Looking back, nothing appears to have changed. And once a place like this is remembered, even briefly, it does not forget in return.